All right, we are recording. Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's little interview. We are interviewing my dad, Scott Safe, who is a USA Weightlifting coach and instructor and has been a weightlifting coach for quite a few years now. And we are just going to go through and ask him his experiences in coaching and also some specifics to coaching women, specifically for our moms and our lifters that we have here at Strong Moms, some questions that we generated in the community, and also just some other questions that people had that wanted me to ask. So here we go. We're going to start out by having my dad, Scott, talk a little bit about his background, his coaching background, and what he is currently coaching right now and working on.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for having me on. I hope this goes okay. It might not be the greatest, but we'll see how this goes. I've been coaching, probably 30 years, maybe a little longer than that. I started as a powerlifter, and so that was my background. There really weren't any Olympic weightlifting type gyms around, but there were powerlifters, and that's how I got started in lifting. So I competed quite a few years in the sport of powerlifting. Got interested in weightlifting as a high school strength coach, and understanding that those movements were power-producing movements, and they probably were more had more of an effect on an athlete than just powerlift alone. So I went to take the USA Weightlifting Level 1 course, and that was really the start of it. And I imagine that was maybe 25 years ago, something like that. And ever since then, I've been coaching weightlifting, and I still do at Cannon Falls High School. I'm a strength coach there, so we do coach all kids, but we do also have some pretty serious junior and youth level weightlifters, and I work with coaching those along with the general strength conditioning program. We go 3 days a week at 6 o'clock in the morning, year round, and I've been doing that for, maybe about 30 years now.
Cool. And for those who don't know, I guess that's how I got started in weightlifting. So my dad obviously was coaching me when I was in high school, and my brother as well. So that's how we got started at a very young age, and we're still kind of doing it now, I guess. 25, 30 years later. I was going to ask you, do you remember who taught your USA Weightlifting Level 1, the first one you took?
Yes, absolutely. Very good friend of mine still, Mike Conroy. Super guy, lives out in Idaho. Mike just recently, I don't know if retired is the right word, but the director of performance in USA Weightlifting. But for many years, he headed that program up, and Mike did a great job. So I always liked dealing with Mike. He was always a great guy.
Awesome. All right. So along the same lines, I guess, first of all, I'm just going to jump into kind of the success of USA Weightlifting over the past couple of years. So bouncing around from questions a little bit, but how do you think the rise of CrossFit has changed USA Weightlifting from your point of view in the past 10-ish years, or however long we're at now, 7, 8 years?
Obviously, it's changed everything totally. Best thing that could have ever happened for USA Weightlifting. With CrossFit, I've heard Jim Schmitz and I were actually talking out at Junior Nationals this year that he had heard a number, and again, this is pretty random, but he had heard a number of like upwards of 2 million Americans a week will snatch or clean and jerk now. 2 million. You just can't even imagine the impact that's had on weightlifting. And number one, from a talent point of view, obviously more fish in the pond means you're going to find better ones. But also from an excitement level, like it's fun to snatch, it's fun to clean and jerk. Cori, when you were a kid, probably rarely would see it other than in our high school, but it just was not something you would see. So if we would go to a gym and somebody could snatch or clean and jerk, it was rare. And certainly there were not bumper plates and bars and places to train like now. Now it's common. And matter of fact, our young girls that come in in our weight room, in our weight program, they absolutely know what snatching and clean and jerking is. So absolutely changed it from, just from the society's outlook on what that is, and that's a cool, athletic, good thing now. And then, of course, certainly the raw numbers brings in more potential, and obviously competition causes the bar to raise. And we just saw our junior worlds team, the women actually junior world team champions. The men were fourth. I mean, just ridiculously good. And something, that many years ago, I think I remember 3,500 total members in USA Weightlifting, and a big percentage of those were coaches. So changed totally for the good.
Yeah, it's crazy. Last night we were actually watching they came out with a CrossFit documentary for this year for the CrossFit Games, and they were talking about how the snatch workout in the Coliseum last year at Madison was like the most heightened, dramatic experience that anybody had ever experienced. They had the biggest weights, the biggest names. People were lined up in this Coliseum. Not only did they want to watch these lifters have to like duke it out and lift against each other, but how does the body move, and how do they make mistakes at that level, and how do they lift under pressure? Because we never see like the big top name CrossFitters competing necessarily on a platform, but we do see them at that. So they said that was like the biggest event that they had, and like from their marketing said that was the biggest reach was the snatch event. They said there's nothing more exciting than making these athletes snatch. So that's pretty cool, because that's a huge change from when we started.
Huge, absolutely. And then PN or whatever, it's such a change.
Yeah.
So positive for weightlifting.
Yeah. So one more question along the CrossFit lines, since that's what we're on right now, but kids and Olympic lifting. So there's a lot of controversy out there about when can we start teaching kids Olympic lifting, and then what age skill level could you add weight? So that's kind of a big one right now, especially since the rise of snatch and clean and jerk among general population.
Yeah, that is a tricky one, and I would say two things. Number one, it really depends on the coach, and number two, the kids. And there are certainly coaches out there that probably should not be coaching young kids snatch and clean and jerk. If their experience level is low, there's too great a chance of something happening bad that you just don't want to have. But if you have a coach that understands what they're doing, light enough equipment to do things correctly, and then a child that wants to do it and has the athleticism to do it, it's great. We surely saw CJ Cummins doing great things as gosh, I wonder if CJ wasn't 10 when we first saw him at a youth national. So it's possible, but I also think I might have lost you, Cor.
No, are you there?
I am.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, but I also second there. But I also think there's a lot of potential danger in overzealous parents that are thinking their kid's going to be the next Olympian, or coaches maybe that don't really understand what they're doing yet. So, I think it has everything to do with good coaching and then the right youngster that's ready to go. Like when you grew up, it was just something we did in the house and it was fine. You did a broomstick for the longest time, and light bar and so on. For you to move into actual lifting competitively was not a big thing. You were very ready for that. And I'm sure the same is true in gymnastics. But for some other kid to just walk in cold turkey young and expect to go and compete, I'm just not sure that's always a good idea. So I would say, coach number one and number two, an athlete that is ready to and would like to.
Right. And with the availability of the lighter bars now,
Dude.
There's always, I think, it's easier to emphasize technique now because we don't have to have a heavy bar, and they can just watch what people do and practice that.
Right. We just recently bought for our granary gym one of those Rogue 2.5 kilo bars, so 5 pounds. Amazingly cool little bar, and a little one can learn with that safely. And if they fall down, it's a 5-pound bar. It's not hurting anybody. So there is some very good new equipment, and that makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Cool. All right, we're going to shift the questions to more female and women specific now. All right, so for those moms out there, here's our first question is, do you coach women any different than men? Now, I know you're coaching high school kids primarily, but let's say from just even a, theoretical stance, Would you coach women any different than men, either psychological or in their actual physical training programs?
Well, I don't now, and I never really did, but it's a fair question. I always did wonder, like when you were little, you did the same program that the guys did, and again, you were different because you grew up with it. So I always did wonder. A year ago, Chase Schaefer, one of our lifters, headed out to Colorado Springs to Jackie Berube Black's gym, train out there for a few days, and she looked at the college, Colorado State out there. She was thinking of going to school out there. And interestingly enough, I did talk to Jackie about that very thing too. She was a resident at the training center for a few years and a high-level lady lifter. And the same with her, no difference. I mean, basically from, just the programming side of it, it was the same. And so that kind of reinforced what I thought. But me and Jackie actually was another female lifter that actually lived at the OTC and trained there. Pretty much same situation there. So I think that helped me just know that was fine. Like what we had been doing was fine, and it seemed to be. Number two, from a psychological point of view, I have very little problem with my lady lifters. Probably more so with the guys, and the guys' distraction. I think our lady lifters, if anything, are more focused and they understand goals and so I don't have to help them along much. I definitely have guys that, we have to get after them. And maybe they're fine. They just need a little kick in the butt to get them moving. And so I treat them a little different just from that point of view. But it's rare I have problems with our girl athletes to be motivated. So, I have some motivated guys, and I treat those just like my motivated girls. I don't have to get after them much at all. So no, I think I really don't. I think it's fine. I've just not had a problem.
Cool.
The only ones I really treat different, like I said, with the guys, there's an old coaching saying that says coaching is a combination of giving out shit and ice cream, and the kids that have had a little too much ice cream need a little shit, and the kids that have had a little too much shit need a little ice cream, and you just got to figure that out as a coach. And I think that's true. And so, if I see a kid that's had too much ice cream, he's going to get a little, and vice versa. But that's more of a guy thing. The girls, my experience has been excellent.
Cool. Do you see any common struggles among the girl lifters?
I can't say that I do. The one thing I guess if I saw a struggle at all with girl lifters is the body weight issue. And we really run into that because in our case, they're growing still. Like we might have a middle school kid that starts lifting, maybe they're in 7th grade, and they're going to go all the way up to maybe a senior, and they are going to grow, and body weight changes. And, with weight classes and weightlifting, that is many times an issue. One of our good little lifters, Ellie Stodden, is a gymnast, and she just flat grew up. But she's still a very good shape, but she got taller. And it was hard for her every year. She kept going up in weight class every year. And now it seems that she stopped growing. But I would say, if anything, they struggle a little bit with that, the weight classes. I think with guys, they just don't care. Whatever weight class they're in, they're in. But I think sometimes girls think about that a little more than guys do. We pretty much take a stance. You're young, you're growing. We're not going to get involved with weight class. We tell them we want you healthy and strong. Mm-hmm. And you're going to grow, so don't worry about it. That's a normal thing. But I'm not too sure still that girls don't take that a little differently than a boy does.
Do you think that having the new weight classes will help that issue because there's just so many? It's not like a specific cutoff.
I do. I think these meets are going to go along because there's going to be more sessions and everything. But yeah, I think, the 10 weight classes is going to give more spots for people. And I would guess you're right. It's just going to spread that out a little nicer, and maybe body weight is a little less of an issue because of that. So if it is, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, all right, our next question is, do you think that age matters in regards to having success in weightlifting?
Yep. But I would just say this. It depends on what your definition of success is. Like Cori's mother, Brenda, and I, we still work out. And for us, success is, if you can hit a PR, is terrific. Now, at our age, you can't even say a PR anymore because of our age. So maybe it's, a PR since you turned 50 or a PR since you turned 52. if you can look at it like that, I think then lifting is fun. And we've gotten to that point where we enjoy going out and lifting now, and it's PR is a different thing, but that's my definition of success. I can go out and have fun, and that's a successful day if I lift well for myself right now. But it definitely, as you get older, things change. Now, I would imagine a lot of your clients are not in their 50s, so they probably still can just literally get stronger and hit true PRs, which is terrific. Age is a factor, but obviously you see some masters age athletes doing incredible lifting. So I would guess for a lot of the clients that are probably watching today, they have lots of upside, which is really exciting, and they can probably go up a long, long way. But it's even fun as you're on the way down, like me, where I'm past halfway, and you can still have fun with it. It's just my definition of success is a little different than maybe your clients where they're still getting better. I'm just hanging on best I can.
Yeah. Well, even like high school age, I still think they should, having fun at the end of the day is probably really important anyway. So,
right.
Probably at any age, as long as your definition of success is not, dependent on everyone else, because the field is constantly getting bigger, as we're finding in weightlifting, CrossFit, everything. I mean, we were competing in juniors school age. There was nobody there, so.
Right.
Well, not nobody, but there was very few people there, so your chances of placing were really high. And now, if I were to expect to place, that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
There's,
It definitely changed. I think even though, back in the day, if we look back, good lifters would have still been good lifters, but the depth is so much deep, where we're seeing, 5, 6, 7 sessions of lifters at one weight class. Just like, wow, where did they all come from? But it's definitely fun. It's exciting. It's fun to be part of.
Yeah. Our next question is, why should moms lift weights?
I got to tell you, I don't think there could be a better thing for a body to do. I really do. I think, and the fact that whether you've had a baby or not, I think is irrelevant. I think the whole point is, if you can go through big ranges of motion and do it effectively, your muscles are stronger, your body moves well, you feel better. There's definitely a feeling of accomplishment, or like we talked about, what's your definition of success? I mean, if somebody can do an honest full snatch and they've never been able to do that in their life before, that's an accomplishment, and that's fun, and it makes it very different than other kinds of training where you're just spending time on a treadmill or something like that. So I absolutely think it's addictive, and in a good way. So the idea that there's programs out there like yours where, people can get help and they can learn to do this stuff, I think it's awesome. And I think that's why it's gaining popularity, that a lot of people have found like this really a fun thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Age isn't a restriction. I mean, there's masters lifters that are 60, 70 years old, so you can do it fun.
Yep. True. Cool. All right. What is one piece of advice that you would give someone who was training on their own, doing their own programming? So similar to what Strong Moms does, they have their own programming and they're doing it on their own.
Yep.
What is one piece of advice you would give them for someone who's training on their own?
Yeah, I think without question, you got to have a coach. And in this case, you can if you're doing something like your program. But, if they don't have access to a coach, then they need to do something like this, because one thing you can do to really screw things up is learn it wrong. And it's so hard to reteach movement. And it's especially hard to reteach movement when you don't have a coach present. So if they can get hooked up with somebody like you guys or whoever that might be, and then what I really like, obviously I'd much rather be there, watch an athlete, correct them as things go, but that just isn't possible for many people. So in the people that it's not, this video business is excellent. And the reason I say that is my wife, Brenda, Cori's mom, started doing this very thing. And the fact that she videos some movements and then sends it to Cori, and she looks at it, critiques it, and sends a critique back, is really helped Brenda get better. Like, she can look at the video, she can read the critique and see what's wrong. And that is so important when you're learning like snatch or clean and jerk. And it's so easy to do those movements wrong. And if somebody isn't there to tell you, you're going to not only learn it wrong, but you're going to just burn that movement pattern into your head. And then it's so hard to make it better. I would say that's the key thing is get with somebody that can help you learn it correctly. I think it's key. And then it's enjoyable. If you can do it well, it's enjoyable. If you learn it poorly, then the struggle becomes to fix it, and more than just the lifting of the weight itself is to correct the movement. So yeah, get with someone.
Yeah, that's huge. And even like, you say that with Olympic lifting, but I think about the gymnastic moves in CrossFit, people bastardizing those from the beginning too, and not getting real gymnastics help, and then just struggling.
Yes.
Some of that stuff, and it's the same thing. It's very skill specific, and the technique is probably the most important part.
Yeah.
And learning it the right way is huge if you want to be efficient.
Yeah, I would say if I had a knock on CrossFit, and I mean, this is not a bad knock, but I think most CrossFit owners would tell you the same, but people learn to snatch and clean and jerk way too fast because they're excited. It's a fun atmosphere. They want to be part of it, and they just learn too fast. Mm-hmm. And then once you've learned it wrong, it's so darn hard. So, if they could slow down and learn those movements correct, it means everything for the longevity of it. So it's fun for years to come. Mm-hmm. But it's so easy to get pulled into the excitement and the fun of the workouts, and that's an awesome thing. But it's too bad because a lot of times they learn it incorrectly, and then it is a hard thing to change.
Yeah. All right, so now we're going to move on to technique-specific questions that we had from lifters. So I'm going to start with, what are your favorite mobility moves to prep for the snatch and the clean and jerk?
What we do, I'm a big proponent of just barbell movements, with a bare bar. Now, I know there's a lot more, and probably with this older population that's starting to lift, it's more important. It's certainly more important for me at my age. But with our youngsters, we do a lot of barbell warm-up, overhead squat, snatch, balance, like a bear complex. Those kind of things that move the body through the range of motion that will be used during the snatch or the clean and jerk workout. And so that's what we normally do. But I can tell you for a fact, like me at my age, it takes me a lot longer to warm up. We've got an assault bike, and I usually use about a 10-minute warm up on the assault bike. And then I probably do like a piriformis stretch, a hamstring stretch. Then I finally get down to sitting in a squat, pushing my knees out and in, trying to get things loosened up before I really can, try even to do Olympic motion. So it does change. But in my case, what we use with our athletes, a lot of barbell movements, and anything and everything that seems to work for the athlete. So it might be snatch balance, it might be overhead squat, it might be a muscle snatch, it might be a power snatch, it might be, the same variations with the clean, press, jerk, all that kind of thing. But empty barbell, we do a lot of that.
So getting in the right movement, or getting in the correct movement with light. Weight.
Right. Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Cool. Let's see. Let's do, what are some of your best or favorite coaching cues for beginners to not overwhelm them, yet still make progress? So what's kind of the most important thing that you give beginners?
Sure. Well, the first thing with any coaching cues, you can't give too many because the athlete won't be able to do them all. I've heard it said, and I believe it totally, they can probably remember one, and at the outside too. So basically, when we start, we teach top down, and we work on those cues that help us keep the barbell close. We've got to cover the bar. We can't get behind the barbell. All of those kind of things. We've got to get that barbell path correct. I like to tell them to keep the bar snug to their stomach, but now even I try to tell them to keep it snug to their chest. And I don't know, snug it's kind of a soft word that they can understand. They try to keep things very close together. But I like that. Second pulls where we usually have problems, and I think that's true with adults too. Second pulls where the barbell gets away. They're either the bar is way too far in front, or they're actually too far behind the bar, which causes horizontal hip. And so we run into that horizontal business with the barbell and the hip. But we can learn to cover the bar, keep the barbell close. Those are two key things. And then, of course, as we move down from there, continuing to maintain those positions while we move that barbell down to the floor. So I guess it depends on where they're at. They're just starting. Like, we have a bunch of beginners right now. We're doing the USA Weightlifting new course. They have an 8-week introductory course that they recommend for beginners. And we're on week 6. What are we on? Week 6 right now. Terrific. And it repeatedly comes back to second pull and getting second pull correct and making sure it's vertical and not horizontal. one of the big things Piros Dimas thought about American lifters was that very thing. We have a lot of horizontal hip, a lot of separation of the bar. He also had kind of an interesting term he used, but he tells the athletes that he wants to get the knees away to clear the path, clear the road, for the barbell. So as they're passing the knees, he wants them to think of clearing the road for the barbell. And so the idea of keeping the barbell back and keeping it close and moving horizontal or vertical, which is kind of an interesting concept. So I tell the kids that, and we've been, like I said, 6 weeks into it now, and I already like a lot what we've been doing. A lot of repetitive second pull and working our way down from there.
Yeah, that's good. So that beginner program, is that something that people can find online, or is that something you pay for?
You get that when you take the USA Weightlifting Level 1 course, and it just changed. So this is a combination of Thomas Fairher, who was going to be our coaching director, and then he's from Hungary, and he couldn't at the end. He had to go home, but he redid a lot of it. And Dimas and Mike Catone all really worked on putting this thing together, looking at Americans and what they thought was wrong, then taking from what they had learned in Europe and put it together. And I like it. It is different, but in a good way. And there's a lot of repetitiveness, getting second pull correct and getting it vertical and not horizontal. And I think that makes all the sense in the world.
So this is kind of a related question from one of the lifters. Why do some lifters jump backwards from the starting? So like say they start in position and then their catch position, they've jumped backwards, specifically in the snatch.
Backwards would be probably too far behind the bar. And too far behind the bar can give the other problem, too, of actually causing horizontal hip and jumping forward. So that being behind the bar is weird. But your area of base of your foot, everything has to stay over that. So if you get too much of your body and the barbell behind your area of base, obviously you're going to fall down or you're going to jump back, one or the other. And the opposite is true, too. If we get too far forward, if the barbell's out too far away, it's going to cause you to jump forward. So, again, learning second pull correctly and making sure it's vertical, if we can get that part fixed, then the rest of it goes pretty good. So in that case, we might take that lift and put them in the high blocks and just work on second pull and reception, second pull and reception. When that got okay, we go from power position, probably eccentric slide down to the knee, back through, second pull, and make sure we're landing it correctly and still. So once we get the problem fixed, start to work your way down to the floor. But I would say that more than anything, they're just probably too far behind the bar. They got to learn to cover the bar, probably raise their hips a little bit, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and probably depends on how many reps they've done.
Right.
Their, area or with their basically center of gravity being too far back, and then unlearning that pattern and like where you're supposed to be.
Exactly. And it gets tough. I do really like high blocks. We built some high and low blocks lately, and we've used them on our lifters now, a fair amount on just more advanced lifters that are really serious. But it is nice to be able to really pick an area you want to work on and then just back hit. And with these people that have bad habits, that seems pretty effective where you can really focus on just one part of the movement. So I really do like those.
Cool. And then a related question, how do you keep the bar close during the snatch and especially after you've reached full hip extension? So I think what she's saying is that once you've reached hip extension, that bar tends to fly out.
Right.
I think.
Well, could be a couple things, but one, if there's any action when that bar is going out, only two things can really cause that. One is there was some horizontal hip action which caused it to bump it out, which is pretty common. The other thing would be arm bend, where they're trying to actually lift it with the arm. So it'd be one of those two things. The arm bend, that's a whole other issue to work on. Or maybe there's still some horizontal hip. And that is so common. People, lifters see that bar come off the hip and think they need to hit the barbell with their hips. And now we get this horizontal hip action going. And that just doesn't need to be. We need to get up and vertical, but not horizontal. So even when you hear like a bang against the barbell, that means something hit the barbell. And the only thing that hit the barbell was the hip. So then we've got some horizontal hip action we'd like to take care of. I think I heard Zygmunt once say that to soften the bump, which I thought was a great coaching cue. Rather than tell them not to do it, but if you soften the bump, what that means is you're not bringing the hip as horizontally or forward as horizontally as hard as you were, and that's what would soften the bump. I thought great little coaching cue that kind of makes some sense to a lifter, and So we try some of those things, but it could be arm bend too. And, if it's arm bend, then that's a whole different thing.
Yeah. And I remember back, this was when I was still coaching at Windy City, and the Instagram world or Facebook world was famous with people watching other lifters whack the barbell off of their hips, and then they were coming in and wondering why their hips were bruised up and they're jumping all forward and backward
Right.
And
there is that school of thought out there. I know about it, but I think if people just think of physics, if we're trying to accelerate a mass, high enough to be able to get underneath and secure yourself, any motion that isn't accelerating up is probably wasted motion. So
and a hit is a stop. So you're decreasing, but then you have to increase again. So you're really only going to get maybe like we say, maybe it would help somebody get through a tiny plateau, but then they're stuck again until they rework their whole technique.
Right, and if you go right back, the hit itself is what caused the hit, and it's got to be a horizontal motion of the hit. That's not vertical. Right. So, from a physics point of view, it just isn't
the bar up.
Horizontal hip, right? It's to try to get everything vertical, but anyway, that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. If we can see that, we can do things to fix it. And again, I'd head back to them high blocks probably and try to smooth that out.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So along the same lines, an elbow bend. How do we eliminate an elbow bend?
Yeah, that's a hard one. Brenda, your mother, has a lot of elbow bend in the clean, and I think it's in a person's head. They just think that, I'm going to lift really heavy right now, and so they just unconsciously bend their arm, like they're lifting it with their arms, and that's hard to break. So what I try to do myself with lifters is I'll actually pull on their wrist and say that feeling in your elbow when I pull on your wrist, that's the feeling I want in your elbow from the weight of the barbell. So the weight of the barbell should cause that to straighten out. I want to leave it that way through the jump, and I want you to focus on the jump and not on the pull. So the arms, we're not thinking of those, they're loose. We're going to focus on the jump. So I know it's with your mother. She will focus on that arm bend, and there the bar obviously flows way down, and the jaw goes wrong. If we can get her to quit thinking about the arm bend and she can think of the jump, she actually has been having some decent success, like as a pull, or even last week, whatever day it was, she did 45. It actually looked pretty good. But in her mind, like when she tries hard, she wants to lift it with her arms. And so I think to break that of the lifter and, not think of lifting with her arms, but focus on what we want, that's that hip extension. Yeah. Think of the arm. But it's tough. A lot of people have that, and it's really hard. And I don't think they're not thinking, consciously of it, but it's a reaction to trying hard as they think they need.
It's, too, if somebody has more kinesthetic awareness in their upper body than their lower body, they're going to have a tendency to pull with the arms. Like,
sure.
For example, like mom's a massage therapist, so she uses her arms literally all day, every day. So she's going to have motor patterns in her arms that most people don't have, right? And she's using her arms far more than her legs. And I've noticed that with other people that have very, hands-on physical jobs, have this tendency to do the elbow bend always.
Right.
But people that maybe their sports were more related to lower body power, they don't have as hard of time. I just think it's more time spent in the kinesthetic awareness based on upper body versus lower body, I think, personally. But yeah, breaking it is definitely
it's hard.
Yep. Okay, so what are the most common faults that you see? I mean, we talked about a lot. Common faults you see in the snatch and the clean and jerk.
It would be second pull, and definitely that. Normally speaking, they get behind it too early, and then when we get behind it too early, we get some horizontal hip that'll push forward, and when that happens, the barbell's going to leave the body. So we got to remember to cover the bar with the shoulders longer into the pull, all the way to second pull, and then make sure when we get there, we want a vertical extension. And I mean, almost everybody that learns it quick, that's a problem. And so it's now and then you get lucky and you find someone that just can do it right from the start, but so many others do not. And I think the natural start position where you really do cover the bar does not seem natural. So people feel like that's not right. You're probably quad dominant or strong in the legs, so you want to get your butt down and at that position, chances are pretty good you're behind the barbell, and we start out in a bad position. So, even teaching first pull is really important, even though it doesn't feel like maybe natural. It's the right way to start first pull, setting us up to get in position for correct second pull. And if we get that right, well, then we got it. So that's a lot of actually what that new USA Weightlifting program is about. I mean, first pull was the first motion today, and it's just to the knee. But getting that, holding that position, covering the bar, getting the knees out of the way, things like that. So, yeah, I would say that, though. We see it all the time.
Yep. What about the jerk?
Sometimes our boys want to have their head back. We got to obviously get the head through, but they want to be like head back, and they're looking up, which maybe they're used to. I think they're also like chest dominant from bench pressing or whatever, and the natural feeling is they want to press it or get in that type of a position, which obviously is wrong. And then we see an arch of the low back. Girl athletes maybe a little more than boys, but understanding what a hollow back is, or we want a neutral spine. So we really talk a lot about head through the window and neutral spine. Head through the window and neutral spine. Certainly getting their feet correct is a big deal too. They seem to be able to learn the feet correct better than some really struggle with the head stays back too long, and also that, arching of the spine too much once that weight's overhead.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I think that's all of our technical questions. Kind of a lot of technique questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So lastly, we got some funny questions. Okay. All right. So we got cut off really quick. So we were talking about the hole getting kicked through the wall in the garage gym that we grew up in, and I had told a friend of mine about it, one of our lifters about it, and she was wanting to know why the hole got kicked in the wall.
Right. And I was saying, I don't remember. I remember the hole in the wall, but in our gym, it was an awfully fun place to be, and it was crazy wild, and it could have been for a good lift or it could have been for a bad lift. I don't remember, but one of the things that I would struggle a little bit with is, like, we had really great atmosphere in there, a great passion in there. It was a fun place to be, and when we're so busy teaching technique with weightlifters, which is so important, we still need to have that passion and aggression. And so it's kind of hard to get that right mix, because we had, we were powerlifters though, so far less technical, but just an awesome environment for getting strong. So that was a fun place to stay. I don't know why there was holes in the wall, but I do know that every time we got done, your aggressions were out, and you were probably a pretty calm person from, for the rest of the night and into that next day. So that was good, and I do work on trying to keep that good atmosphere in our gym when we train now with the school kids. But obviously, technique is such a key part, but we still need that passion and aggression. So you got to kind of find a balance between the two things.
Yeah. So
you a lot of things you probably shouldn't have saw when you were little.
Well, I don't remember a lot of it, to be honest with you, and I just remember riding my wheel tricycle around a lot. Probably off the stairs and through the lifts, I don't know.
Right.
Really all I remember. And I remember we had like a playpen pack and play out there for a while that I would hang out in.
Right.
I don't remember much more than that, because mainly then you changed the garage gym into Safe USA, where you're making belts and shoes.
Right.
I mainly remember that part, but
sleeping on the leather pile.
Yes, being sick from school and being able to come home, which I was sick a lot. Okay, so I think that's everything we have. I don't know. I think that's it. If we have more questions, or if you guys have more questions, feel free to comment on the video or send us a message, and we can always do a round 2, because we know where this guy is. So we can definitely do that. But hopefully you guys all learned a little something today. A little something about lifting and a little more in the weightlifting world. Yeah, do you have any other advice for our lifters?
I don't, but I think it's cool what's going on there, and I guess I'm just happy to see it continue on. There's something cool about the whole sport of lifting, and the fact that you've kind of figured out a way to help other people, maybe in their garages or wherever they're at, be able to learn and to experience the same stuff. I think it's awesome. And so I'm glad that's all going on, and if I can help anybody in any way, I'd be glad to do that.
Cool. All right, and if you're ever in Cannon Falls, Minnesota, I think you can probably stop in and train in the high school at 6 a.m. if you want.
Yep, that's true.
The offer is probably always open. Yeah, and I think that's about it.
Sounds good to me.
Cool. All right, well, I'm going to stop the recording here, so we'll talk to you. I'm going to stop this right now.